if you can look over to 15 real quick, you see there 15 verse 2, and the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." So he told them a parable. So you see, he's been talking to Pharisees. He's not talking to Pharisees anymore. Who's he just talking to? He's talking to disciples. And this brings up something very cool that Brother James talked about this morning that I wasn't thinking about, that caught me kind of off guard whenever we were studying James chapter 5. The book of James, who is it written to? It's written to believers. It's written to Christians. Who would be the believers of this time? I mean, Christ hadn't died and hadn't been raised from the dead yet, but he's got disciples. These guys would be considered the righteous ones, the godly ones, the believers. Okay? So he's talking to believers here. And then that just that makes you tremble a little bit, you know what I mean? It makes you kind of, whoa. Because he's about to deliver a pretty weighty punch right to the jawbone of these guys with this passage. He's talking to disciples. Keep that in mind as we're going through and we're reading this. There was a rich man who had a manager. Now, in this time, status was what you wanted, what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted status. Okay, so if you're doing background on the Near East, the ancient Near East, on Jerusalem and the people in that time, everybody wants to move up the social ladder. That's very important to people. Okay? So you have rich people. Rich people, they own land. This guy, rich guy, owns land. We know he owns land because if you go through and you read to the end, he's got olive oil, because the oil is not crude oil. I mean, he doesn't live in Texas, you know what I'm saying? It ain't black gold, you know what I'm saying? He's got some olive trees, okay? He's got some olive trees, orchards, and that's a lot of olive oil. 100 measures is about 800 gallons, which in my reading or whatever, it said something to the extent of about 125 acres or some odd like that, or 125 trees or something to that extent. He's got a lot of land. And he's not only does he have trees of olives and acres of olives, but he's also got acres of wheat. And then that's only 2 examples of all the things that he has. So this rich man, he's owning land. He's obviously got the status. He's got status. If you're a landowner, you got some status. He's got a lot of land. He's got a lot of status. Now, if you are a manager, that means that you're not the rich man. And you know rich people, you think about this, Bill Gates. Okay, all the people that we talked about this morning, Bill Gates, what were some of the other ones that we said, Brother James? Warren Buffett, who I really don't know who Warren Buffett is. I'm going to have to do a Google search on Warren Buffett or something and find out who this guy is, because everybody talks about him being so wealthy. All these wealthy people, close your eyes for a second. Think in your mind of a wealthy person, the highest person in the wealth area that you know about. Okay? Now, that person, he doesn't take care of his own he doesn't keep his own books. No, he's too busy going out and doing status stuff. He's walking around he's wheeling and dealing, he's talking to people, things like that. But he's got somebody that does his books. That's who this manager is. Okay? Now, the manager, he's a nobody. He may have been born, but he's been educated, okay? Because he knows how to keep books. He knows how to manage people. So he's a nobody, but he's got some brains on him. Now, if you're a nobody, but you got some brains, the only way you can move up the social ladder is to get in the hip pocket of a rich landowner, and then maybe you're going to get some of the coin that falls off. Plus, people are going to see you with him all the time and things like that. Okay, you see how this game is playing out. So this manager, he's in the hip pocket of the rich man, and this happened all the time because rich people don't handle their own books. They have somebody else that handles their books. Now, this manager is trying to go up the social ladder too. That is why he has probably sold himself into slavery of this rich man. Like, hey, whatever I got to do, I'm going to get in your hip pocket, and I'll take care of everything for you. I just want to be close to you. Let me manage all your stuff. And then he's going to glean from the rich man, okay? And it doesn't say here, it's not mentioned in the parable, but it could be that he is taking and he's trying to line his pockets a little too much, okay? Maybe the books are a little too faulty. Whatever the situation is, he may be a little too greedy. But notice that next passage, what's come in there. And charges, this is all still in verse 1, so much in one verse. And charges were brought to him that this man, the manager, was wasting his possessions. Lesson number 1 for tonight. Rich people are rich because they don't waste their possessions. Okay? Look, if you got a lot of money, you're not going to put a waster of your money in charge of your money. You're gonna put somebody that knows how to make more money for you in charge of your money. And that's just a sidebar comment that's fun. But look, this manager, for whatever the charges were, we don't know what the charges were, but whatever it was, somebody comes to him and says, hey, you know, Bob that you got taking care of all your finances and stuff, well, he's wasting it. He's wasting it. So the manager, the master or whatnot, the rich man, he's like, I can't do that. So I got to get Bob up out of here. So what happens next? Verse 2. He called him and said to him, hey, Bob, come in here. I like how I just named him Bob, you know. He used to have a nice Jewish name, you know, and now he's Bob. Hey, Bob. Get in here. What is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. You can't be my manager anymore. Okay? He has a sit down, has a come to Jesus meeting with Bob. Okay? You can't be manager anymore. Now, think about this. What does that mean for you if you're Bob? Remember where you came from. Remember, you are a nobody. You've been educated. But now you're about to get fired from your lofty position. You were Bill Gates's or Warren Buffett's account manager. You were his right-hand man. He said, Bob, how's everything doing on the financial front? We're doing good, Bill. Okay, let's keep moving forward. We're doing good, Warren. All right, let's keep going forward. Okay? But now you're about to get let loose. It's about to get bad for you. You are getting all of your status that you have worked so hard to achieve, and it's about to be taken away. Okay? So, you guys are all Bob. We see what Bob is happening, what Bob does right here in this next little passage. He says, turn in the account of your management, for you're not going to be manager any longer. And then verse 3. And the manager said to himself, let's take a second there. And the manager said to himself, he just had this blow, okay? A big blow come to him. His boss said, hey, son, what is it? Trump always says, you're fired. Okay? He just had the blow just came. Okay? And so what does the manager do? Okay? Because we're going to find out later, this is why he's considered shrewd. He sits and he talks to himself. He thinks about it. Okay? He reasons it out. He's going to go, okay, I just got fired. What am I going to do? And that's what he asks himself. Look, that's what he says. He talks to himself and he says to himself, what shall I do? The bad news comes, okay, you're fired, and he says, what am I going to do? That's big. That's important. Because not many people do that. You think about that for a second. Not many people get news and then want to sit and think about it and say, you know, what am I going to do? this guy does that. And we're going to find out that's why he's considered shrewd. And whenever we get to the end of tonight, there's going to be a big challenge to all of us. Because this has bigger ramifications than just this parable. This parable is about something, that's why Jesus teaches parables, is because there is this bigger meaning that's going to come to us, that it's all packaged up in this nice story, but it's this bigger meaning that's going to come to us. And we're going to get to it in a little bit. I'm not going to let it go just yet. I'm just going to hold on to it for a second. We're going to get to it. Don't worry, we're going to get to it. So he says, what shall I do since my manager is taking the management away from me? He had this sit down, think about it, let's reason this out. Okay? And he says to himself, I'm not strong enough to dig. He probably was strong enough to dig, but think about this. And this still is the case today. You work manual labor. Okay? How high on the status totem pole are you whenever you're out digging ditches? We even say it today. Well, you better go to college, son, because you don't want to be digging ditches for the rest of your life. My dad, you better find a way to go to college because I'm not paying for it, and you don't want to dig ditches like I had to for the rest of your life. You see what I'm saying? We still say that today. Digging ditches is not very high on the status pole, okay? Don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of money, digging ditches or whatnot. But in this day and age, if you were working with your hands, that's not going to move you up as fast as it is being a manager, which is what this guy was. So he's like, I don't want to go down the totem pole. I want to stay at the same level. I want to go up. Okay? So he says, I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm too ashamed to beg. See, begging was bad too. Begging, if you're a beggar, you're like the lowest of the low on the totem pole. You're at the bottom of the status. He doesn't want to go down in status. He's got to keep his status. Okay? Because that's what's most important to him, is keeping his status. Okay? So he says, after thinking, he says, I've decided what to do. He thinks about it, and then he makes a decision. Okay? I know what I'm going to do so that whenever I'm removed from management, when the firing comes, and it's my last day, that people are going to take me into their houses. Okay? They're going to take me in. I can still keep my same kind of status. I'm not going to have to go beg. I'm not going to have to go and dig. People are going to take me in. I know what I'm going to do. So he makes a decision about it, and then he does it. Okay? He calls in all the master's debtors. All right, guys, hey, you owe Bill this much. You come on in, guys. Now, who keeps the books? The manager does. So why is it, and now this, Dr. Street, if you're watching this, I watched one of the people that, like only one person that I saw that preached this passage, and he brought up this point that I'm going to bring up to you guys. He was a doctor at my old college, Dr. Alan Street. He said, why is it that he asked these people how much they owe the master? He keeps the books. Who knows better than he does how much they owe the master, okay? He knows, okay? But watch this. He says to each of these people, okay, all however many of them. It's not just two. I think two is just the example, okay? Although this example is huge, okay, two is just the example. It may have been upwards of 100. We don't know, but two is just the example. See, he says all the debtors. We got these debtors that are coming in. I don't think it's just two. There's probably more, okay? So he says to them, how much do you owe my master? Now, he probably says that because he wants these people to recognize the debt that they owe, and he wants them to recognize what he is about to give them, okay? He wants them to recognize how much they owe. I owe 1,000 barrels of oil to the master. And he wants them to say it. See, whenever you have to go to the bank, you have to go to the banker and you have to say, and the banker asks you, well, how much do you owe us? Banker knows. But you have to say it, well, I owe you this many $1,000. See, whenever the banker looks at you and says, well, we're going to forgive that. You only owe half of that now. Now, how do you feel toward that banker? It may not have even been the banker's decision. Now, this for him was obviously his decision, but it may not even be the banker's decision. Somebody way up here at the bank may have said, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk right over there. Andy, you're the banker. I'm going to give you a hug. You just cut my bill in half on my mortgage payment. Praise the Lord. Thank you. So, same case here, okay? Watch. He gets them to say it. This guy, this Bob, he's shrewd. He is shrewd, okay? He is smart. He's witty, all right? I've decided what I'll do, okay? He gets them all to come in. How much do you owe? I owe 100 measures of oil, okay? Now, oil, wheat, these are common commodities inside of their day and age, okay? Now, about oil, here's something we got to be thinking about too. It doesn't necessitate that he took and he pocketed this money. It doesn't necessitate that he was too greedy. That may not be what Jesus is saying, okay? Jesus may be saying that, okay, how many of you guys know about interest? Okay, yes, I've never bought a house, but they taught me I never bought a house, but you guys that buy houses, however many houses you own, if you have a house, you paid interest on it, okay? What it says that the house is worth is $150,000, but 30 years later, you actually paid $175,000, okay? That's called interest. Now, they had interest back there too. Now, guess what? Oh yeah, you gotta wait. That's a good interest rate. You're doing really great. You see what I'm saying, though, okay? It's like you wish you could have. Who's your guy? I'm gonna go to him, man. He got some good deal on that interest. High credit score. That's all you gotta do. You have a high credit score. I'm just joking. But seriously, let's go. Okay, so they had interest back then too, and it was inappropriate to charge interest to your neighbor. If you're a Jew, and this is back in the Old Testament, if you're a Jew, you're not supposed to charge interest to other Jews, especially poor Jews. Okay? Now these guys that he's charging interest to, they're probably tenant farmers. They probably live on his land. They're taking care of the land for him or whatnot. Not supposed to charge them interest because they're poor and they're Jewish. You don't do that to other Jews. You don't do that to poor Jews especially. Okay? Now, the interest on oil, because oil was such a common commodity, everybody was trying to do things with oil. So they would take oil and you'd have this really pure olive oil, but then they would water it down and stuff like that. So oil, the interest rate was super, 100%. And that's documented, in extra biblical literature, that oil was super interested, okay? Super interest on oil. Let's go, look, 100 measures. That's like 900, however many gallons or whatever of oil. Cuts it in half, 100% interest. Okay? This could be the way that he's just saying, look, we were going to charge you a bunch of oil because of the interest rate. And everybody did this, even though they weren't supposed to. We were going to charge you 100 measures, but now we're not going to charge you 100 measures anymore. We're only going to charge. Hey, notice he says, take and quickly write down. Okay? He wants it to seem like he's doing them a really big favor. Okay? He's cutting their bill in half. Whoa! You are so great, thanks. Does that to the guy that's got the 100 measures of oil that he owes. Does that to the guy that's got the 100 measures of wheat, okay, that he owes. He says, look, hey, go write down 80. We're going to take away the interest. That could be the way that this parable reads. He's just taking away the interest. Either way, he's using the resources that he has control of to get the favor of these people so that it is good for him after he gets fired. Okay? And he does that for all of the debtors. Okay? He does that for everybody.